Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome back to the Human Revolution. Alright, well, as you might have guessed, Taiyang Medical is our next destination, but there is one little bit of unfinished business I should correct first. And there we go. Oh my. There are a lot of exploding crates in here. Not much else, though. Aside from the shotgun, of course. Man, that window blocked out a lot of this stuff. Alright, so... Oh. Please don't pee into the garbage can. In both English and Mandarin. No smoking sign with a bunch of stubs underneath it. I don't know. The cleverness is kind of diluted when it's on both sides of the station. Yeah, I've already done all the side quests.
Malik, any word from Pritchard yet?
I'm right here, Jensen, staring at a blueprint of the Taiyang Medical Building.
Great. I need access to a security terminal in the upper city tower.
You do realize there's an entire skyline between you and it, don't you?
I know. The Pangu. Any idea how I get to it?
I suggest you start by going up.
Helpful as always, eh, Francis? So, yeah, as they were just saying, my destination is at the top of the Taiyang Medical Building, but the Taiyang Medical Building happens to be very large and basically incorporates the entire structure from the base all the way up. So right now we're still in the lower city. We only moved horizontally with that shuttle. Apparently, even though this is the middle of the day, they're shut down for business? Huh. It feels like it's late at night, even though it's not, for once. This is the middle of the day. It only seemed like night because we were... Oh dear. Yeah, it only seemed late at night because the sun was blocked out by the second layer of city. It's actually the middle of the day.
Access granted.
Alright. See if we can... Oh dear.
You! Help! I need help! Please! The regulator machine is shorted out, causing a toxic gas leak. I tried to get... but I'm stuck in here. I couldn't...
Enough with the play-by-play. What do you need?
There's a valve in the next room. You have to close it.
Yeah, we'll save his life.
I'll see what I can do.
Oh, thank God. Please, hurry!
Alright. Well, there's a bunch of ways you can go about doing this, but this is the easiest and the fastest. Find this pocket secretary, get the code, input the code at the chemical storage door, enter, find the valve, and turn it. And we have now saved his life. We can get some more codes from this pocket secretary. Yeah, you may notice that was actually the only door in here, and I believe it was a level 4 lock. So pretty tough to get through. Like, even if you have a high hacking skill, it does take time, and time is not on your side in this case. But anyway, you could go around the entire thing and hack this level 1 security door, but then you would have to walk into the room that was full of toxic gas in order to get into the next room, which is where the regulator valve is. So yeah, good three ways you could get through here, depending on different skills and observational ability.
You saved my life. How can I repay you?
You can give me some directions.
To where?
I need to get to the upper tower.
You must use the elevator pass to cryo-sterilization room. But unauthorized personnel aren't allowed up there. But Kim is the guard on duty today. He owes me a favor. Just tell him Lee sent you, and he should let you through.
Much appreciated, my friend.
The least I can do. You saved my life. Not many people would have done that here. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Also, how toxic would that gas have to be that he needs a full suit and a gas mask? And the gas mask wasn't enough.
Where do you think you're going, buddy? This is a restricted area.
I have no idea how well any of these options work because I always save Lee's life. But at least this works.
Lee didn't warn me that I might be refused entry. I guess he figured you'd remember the favor you owe him and let me by.
Right, look. I'll let you pass because I do owe him. But watch out for the security systems. If you get detected, I'll have no choice but to take you out.
Fair enough.
We do not tolerate security breaches at CYM. One strike and you are out. Ms. Zhao has approved a shoot-first policy. So if you're not sure you have clearance to be in an area, don't take a chance.
Alright.
I'm filing reports for equipment malfunctions. Anything to report?
Yes, something is wrong with the end effector in the mechanical arm.
What exactly?
Well, if I knew, I wouldn't be making a report, would I?
I'll send someone up to the maintenance catwalk to check it out.
Hopefully, the mechanical arm will be fixed by tomorrow. I'm glad someone else is doing it. I get dizzy up on that catwalk.
If you have a malfunction to report, talk to me. Lately, I've had so much work and not enough time to do it.
Alright, so the security personnel around here is Bell Tower, but they are acting as security. Oh. Mine. They are acting as security, at least in the areas I'm entering here. And so I am going to return to a non-lethal approach. You can see there's a couple of guards in there, along with a patrolling guard out in the middle. Now they are a little bit problematic, at least in terms of trying to snipe them, because one of the guards in the security station on the left there can see the patrolling guard. Well, that's weird. That door is supposed to be open. I did actually have to reload at one point, so that may have been a factor of this bug here. Luckily I've got the code for this. Makes it nice and fast. But yeah, the idea is that the catwalk moves between two different points up there. The further one, the one that requires you to unlock that button. That one gets you progress, but the near one gets you goodies, which is why you want to come up here first. And yeah, now the doors are working. See? Goodies. Sniper rifle ammo. Well, this is a sniper's nest. Good place for shooting all three of the guys down there. But like I was saying earlier, it is kind of unfortunate because, you know, at least two of the guys, it's easy to alert the remainder by shooting them first. And you don't want to do that if you don't want to set off any alarms. Oh, silent sniper rifle. Even more suggestions. But no. Instead, the easiest way of neutralizing the guards downstairs. Hang on. Combat rifle. Now I could pack in a nice even 50. Right, anyway. So, this is the best way of getting to the guards and neutralizing them without alerting them. Of course, you do need the Icarus jumping mod to get down here safely. But I do, so that's no problem. And here we are. 2 guards, plus the third one on patrol. Now on the left. This does seem like the best way of getting to them. Not sure if I would have been able to sneak up without the stealth mod. But now it doesn't matter. Just one guy left. So if I can nail him, then all I have to worry about are the cameras. Oh crap. Must have heard it hit the space behind him. Wow. Gotta get the obstacles out of the way. Looks like I got a bullseye there. Oh, and I did. Great. And he's too far away from the cameras for me to worry about that. Alright, just got to hack the stack here. Strengthening those nodes bought me some time.
Access granted.
Alright, and you can see I've got 3 cameras and access to robots. You can see the robots on the mini-map on the left. Oh, it's a sleepwalking world again. This one's about viruses. About how all the most virulent viruses in the past 50 years were all man-made. Clearly. I mean, hell, it might actually be true in Deus Ex. Ooh. Now you may have just seen I used that pack just now because I only want to carry around 6. Also, annoying, but yeah, invisible ceiling and wall here, so you cannot jump over that side of the wall there. Still, there is a use for this container, but let me get back to that later. For now, you can see that this is actually the stealth no mods route. Is because this path the bottom laser doesn't work all the time, but I don't have to worry about the timing because I've got the stealth mod. And a whole bunch of alcoves you can hide around here to get around the patrolling guard. Oh, tranquilizer darts. Of course, there is this, interesting sign they've got here. There is this right here, too. If you've got the strength AUG, you can move that large container. Get an interesting view of what's going on below the waterline. Apparently there's some sort of cold storage area. And paperwork storage, too. Weird. I don't think I even need to use half those codes. But yes, it gets you all the way up to here, where you saw I moved the container. And by the way, there's no glass in the window here. Right, so wasn't quite finished exploring on the other side yet here. So let's get back to that. So for lacking the Icarus mod path, this is how you would have to get across. And you would have to get across because even the shortcut is on the other side. Still, it's not too bad because the patrolling guard doesn't go that far. And in the meantime, you can sneak into this area back here, get a couple of goodies like a revolver. And that's about it though. But hey, up here on the next floor up is a pump room whose code I have, obviously. And in the back of the pump room, got a few more lockers with a pistol and an EMP grenade. Always useful. And in fact, I can stack them with my other 2 EMP mines, thanks to that mine template I got earlier. That gives me a lot more inventory space. And of course, this takes you right back to where you started. Alright. Now I finished exploring this place. So let's head all the way back to the way of getting forward. And yep, there's another guard right in front of me. Turned his back to me. Might be able to use that if he doesn't turn around anytime soon. And he didn't. At least not until I tapped his shoulder. More pump rooms. Oh, good, I do still have useful codes here. They really need to clean up after themselves around here. By the way, the walls are sweating. It's from all of the steam. Hey, this one's just plain open. Which is probably why it doesn't have anything useful in it. Nuts. Oh, looks like a security cage of some sort. To keep the electronics safe.
Access granted.
Alright, that was relatively painless. Now you cannot fiddle with the electronics directly, sadly. But they do keep a lot of spare ammunition around here. It's actually a little disturbing once you start to think about it. What does the maintenance crew need with all of these bullets?
Richard, I'm in an elevator leading to the Pangu. Any security features I should know about ahead?
Nothing too taxing, I suspect. The Pangus used mostly for maintenance and storage. Look for a second elevator once you're there. It'll carry you straight into the tower.
Well, looks like the sub-level decor really hasn't changed. Even more ammunition. And that cage is locked, by the way. And of course, the water here is electrified, making it hard to get up there unless you're EMP shielded. And if you're not, you do have a way of getting in without having to hack that one door. Assuming that you can find the ventilation shaft, that is. But yes, once you do, you can just shut off the electricity. It's that easy. Oh, hello there. Yeah, I kind of gathered that. Anyway, there was one other destination you could get to with the ventilation ducts here. It's got a couple of credit chips and, looks like an unfortunate story ended up there. There's a ventilation duct to get up, but it's too high up for me to reach. Which means there must be another path. Oh. And some lockers. Cleverly hidden. Alright, now. Oh yeah, there's this crate here. Trying to see if you can just straight up jump up from over here. Skip the water entirely. Maybe, but... Oh, they use the same model trams as they do in Detroit. You can see some people from in here. Over in a place you can't access. Yeah, I guess you could move these crates over there, but of course, to get to these crates, you would need to cross the water. I think there are some crates in the other room too, but it's definitely inconvenient to try and get around the water by using crates. Oh, it's the China Sun. That makes sense. Ooh, you can climb all the way up here, into the rafters. But you can't go past that little overhang thing. Sad. Alright, this is the Pangu lift. The maintenance elevator for getting up into the top of the Taiyang Medical Building. The upper city portion, I should be specific. Anyway, we're not going in there just yet. We still have unfinished business, as you might recall. Unfinished business, which we can reach, once again, only if we have the Icarus mod. Oh, but we get 400 exploration points for getting here. Tranquilizer rifle. Reload speed upgrade, which works with the tranquilizer rifle. And this poor asshole, who has a pocket secretary, an access card, and some credits. Looks like this guy got on the wrong side of the triads. Yeah, the description for this has changed, by the way, since Windmill hacked it. And this is the one I just picked up. That gets me additional access to the upper levels. And here we are back where we were before. Which means I'm going to have to climb up all of those boxes again. Speaking of which, how are you supposed to get up here? Hang on. I must have missed this. Yeah, how are you supposed to get up here? Like, if you aren't trying to sneak around like I am. What is the way of getting to this catwalk from below? That does not involve climbing up a climbing puzzle.
Jensen, what is it you're looking for exactly?
Some kind of surveillance recording. Van Bruggen said he stashed it on a server somewhere.
He must have meant the data core room. Very high security. It'll be a couple of floors up from where the elevator lets you off. But the first corridors you'll pass through will be public, so you might want to keep any weapons concealed.
Copy that.
Yep, once again, we are tackling security, not enforcers. They may both work for the same company, but I am going to make that distinction when deciding who lives and who dies. If they're just doing their jobs, and if they're just trying to keep people safe, then you get to live. And even if you hassle people, you know, you don't have to die for that. Although you do have to die when you start murdering civilians. Anyway, I was just admiring the view. Like I said, it's the middle of the day. And everything's a rather hazy shade of yellow because it's China and pollution. Welcome to Shanghai. Well, jumping around was fun, but let's actually get moving here. Oh.
To China now as details about a bold maneuver by biotech corporation Taiyang Medical continue to emerge. Sources close to the multinational giant inform me that it has successfully purchased rival corporation Enprotech of Scotland. Enpro stock had taken a dip earlier in the day as rumors began to circulate, accusing CEO Ollie McTavish of embezzlement. McTavish denied the allegations, but could not explain how millions of dollars in revenue ended up in his personal account. I'm sure it was just a clerical error, quipped Zhao Yunru, CEO of Taiyang Medical, as transfer of ownership was officially declared. The purchase gives Taiyang a significant increase in global market share. This is Eliza Kassan, reporting to you live from Picus.
How much you want to bet TYM is responsible for that inexplicable transfer?
You must be one of the new promotions. Physically augmented workers like you are usually found in the cryo storage pool, in the lower building. I'll warn you right now. Stay out of the way or you will find yourself right back in the basement, lifting heavy objects for a living.
Yep, you go ahead and threaten me. You and your tiny little ego.
This is unacceptable. I need to get into Legion Lab immediately. Yes, I understand that I'm the one who lost my access card, but it's your job to provide me with a new one immediately. I have important deadlines to meet. 再见. I don't know if you've ever lost your access card before, but it can be extremely frustrating trying to get a new one. They act with such incompetence in administration sometimes.
Surely all new security personnel are told not to bother the scientists. I will report this to your superior, you know.
Good luck finding him. He works in an entirely different company.
我没时间说话，你想给我找麻烦呀？你没事儿干呢。
Yeah, you gotta love the one guy talking about administration's incompetence when he's the one who lost his badge.
Yeah, so I'm trying to pry this candy bar loose, right? Right. And I give it a good tug, and suddenly the vending machine starts tipping. Oh, shit. Oh, shit is right. Luckily, they're lighter than most vending machines. I honestly thought it was the end for a second. Death by a vending machine.
Pointlessly tragic.
Are you part of the new project? I thought they were just refining the chips. Great-looking gear. Not exactly run-of-the-mill, is it?
Did you hear that about the vending machine? Every day it's a different story with that guy. Yesterday he was joking about getting the wrong flavor soda.
Hey, in-joke. Ever since poor Gunther Hermann, there's always been a joke in Deus Ex games about the wrong flavor soda. So there's an automatic email to warn you that you're approaching your email limit of 4. And it takes up 25% of your email capacity. That would sound almost hilariously awkward if it weren't intentional. Ooh, whiskey. Yeah. And typhoon ammo. And another pack. Let's get crunk. Man, whiskey hits hard. It's worth it for the health boost, though. It's just too bad I had no idea what that guy is saying, because I can't read my subtitle readout. Anyway, yes, there is a vending machine in this area, and yes, you can kill Mr. Death by Vending Machine with it. And you can also use it to access the upper level here and skip past a bit of security.
Have you had any trouble with the security personnel? Some of these bell tower people have a bad attitude. The two around the corner wanted money from me. Can you believe that? You have to wonder if they're here for our security or just to intimidate us.
It's tempting, he's all alone. But I made a promise to myself. No killing on these floors. Oh hey, another automated email warning people about the 4 email limit. How helpful. Well, actually it is helpful, because otherwise if you started losing emails and you had no idea why, that would be a problem.
Access granted.
But yeah, 4 emails is kind of draconic. And there is a reason, like I said, but it's going to have to wait until the next video to see why that is. That's another way past the security door. But yeah, so all of these emails I'm reading now, what they add up to is TYM is going for quantity and low cost over quality.
Can't let you in. Access to the lab is strictly forbidden without a Lee Gang access pass.
No problem. Here it is.
Seems in order. Sorry about giving you a hard time, but apparently there's some pretty heavy stuff going on in there.
No apology necessary. You're doing a good job, soldier.
See, and I don't even need to knock anybody out. Although, that guy is not going to be moving anytime soon, and I do want to get into the security substation. So what the hell? Let's just make sure to drag you out of the area where people can see you. There we go. That's a nice place for a nap. But also, I don't actually have to go through the front door to get into the security substation. I just knocked him out because there are windows and he might have been able to see me through them. Now, as far as sneaking into the substation goes, this ventilation duct here is how you do it. And hey, this is another way of getting an access card into the lab. Looks like they're in the process of moving stuff around in here. And yeah, you could probably easily see me through that window. I could hack the station, but I'm not going to bother because the cameras are friendly. So what would be the point? Yeah, the big thing is that they're using shoddy materials that break down almost instantly.
I don't understand why we are going to distribute a biochip that we didn't design ourselves.
We just gotta keep working and meet our deadlines.
I know, but I don't understand why we are going to distribute a biochip that we didn't design ourselves.
Questioning it is a waste of time. All I know is the shipping department needs this chip ASAP, so that's what we're going to give them.
Sorry, but I don't have time. We have a major deadline to meet. Please, just let me do my work.
Sorry, but if you don't have anything important to tell me, well, I have a lot of work to do. I don't want to be rude, but my work requires a lot of concentration.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's going on around here. TYM has to create and deliver, in very short notice, some sort of biochip for cranial implants. The ones that control other augmentations.
看起来可没什么相关性。哦，不好意思，我一定是走神了，我以为你是别人呢。
Yep, faulty materials, like I was saying before. And yeah, it's to the point where if people question the TYM's methods, they get canned, even if they are otherwise perfect employees. So this is where that ventilation duct leaves out. And I believe there is one other guy around here.
Ah, hello. It is very commendable when someone like you shows interest in our work. I would try to explain it, but you obviously would not understand.
Gotta love the assumptions they're making. I mean, Adam Jensen probably wouldn't understand. But they shouldn't just assume that by looking at him. I mean, hell, they might have assumed that he's not as capable at hacking as he actually is.
Access granted.
Oh yeah, that's the third thing, is TYM did get a incomplete upload of the Typhoon schematics, and so they're having to reverse engineer the rest of the diagrams, the blueprints. Good old-fashioned corporate espionage. That's how this whole thing started. Right, now, as for the security station in here, you can see there are a couple of guards. And if I want to do anything in here, I have to deal with them.
Well, I heard there are secret meetings going on in the upper tower with some pretty important people. There's so many rumors going around, you can't trust anything you hear. I just wish they'd tell us what's going on. I hate being in the dark. Relax. When I heard about the Dutchman, I just figured it was another attempt to get dirt on Seraph. I thought that too, but these new biochips they're working on, I don't know. Something colossal is going on.
See, I'm not actually allowed to be in here. The only reason they didn't do anything is because they were locked into that conversation. Luckily, I dealt with these two fast enough that they didn't alert anybody else. Hey, I'm already here, might as well. I sure didn't actually do that much, did I? Alright, gotta go the whole way around here because of that one-way path. But we made it in time.
Access granted.
All that to turn off one camera. Possibly get some robots to start killing our enemies. But again, this is not the map to do that. There will be future maps. Don't you worry about that. So, over on this side here, we've got more laboratories. And a Praxis kit just sitting in a drawer. Jeez. Yeah, the one time that the TOIM personnel actually get worried is when the augmentations are so poorly made that they don't stand up to the basic stress tests. Like, not even the advanced stress tests.
You must be one of the new promotions. Physically augmented workers like you are usually found in the cryo storage pool, in the lower building.
Access granted.
Yeah. But yeah, for everything aside from that doomsday scenario, basically they have to instruct their quality testing personnel to not look that hard at their products.
Surely all new security personnel are told not to bother the scientists.
So rude. But yes, this is where you end up when you try and bypass the security with a vending machine. As far as I know, the guards don't react, because if you're here, then you're obviously supposed to be here.
Nice night. Wish I was out in the city having fun instead of in here. You ever been to the Honghua? I got a girl there. One day, I'm gonna take her away from all of this.
Plenty of ways to sneak around, at least. Another newspaper. Yep, that's the same one. We aren't technically in a new area yet.
Increasing global market share.
We've been getting a lot of complaints about the temperature in the data core room.
Too hot?
No, too cold. I think there's too much air coming in from one of the vents.
I have it checked out.
Hint, hint.
I'm giving a report to the officer here. Thanks. I find that bell tower guards are always helpful to the employees.
Maybe it's because she's pretty.
First a leak in the floof, and now this. I need a break.
But that's enough of TOIM for today. You know, I've touched on computers now and again, a few times over the past few years, but I don't think I've ever really done an in-depth look at what goes on inside the guts of a modern electronic device. So how about I rectify that in today's Science Corner? Let's begin at the most basic of levels. Anatomy of a circuit board. An electrical circuit is a complete loop of wires and objects that allows electrons to move from a point of higher concentration to a point of lower concentration. It's the ionic equivalent of emptying a bucket of water into a pipe and having it flow down into a second bucket at the pipe's base. However, with electricity, the source and the destination of electrons tends to be the same thing, and so the wires almost always form a circuit. That's why power cords always come in pairs. If they don't, that's only because you can't see the insulation inside dividing the individual power lines. If the two lines are allowed to touch, electrons will stop flowing through the device it's supposed to power, and it'll become a short circuit. Now, onto the anatomy. So, between the power source and the object that needs power, you can place a lot of different electronic components. Or maybe can is the wrong way to put it. If you want your devices to work correctly, you have to add the right components. The first component is the resistor. Resistors use materials like carbon that are harder for electrons to pass through, and their purpose is to regulate the current or amperage of a circuit. To use the water analogy again, imagine there's a wheel in the pipe that spins when water goes past it. However, the wheel is delicate, and if too much water hits it all at once, it'll break. The way you stop that from happening is by adding a pipe section with a smaller diameter. The weight of the water coming down the pipe doesn't change, that's the wattage, but the water slows down because only so much of it can pass through the resistor pipe at once. This keeps the wheel below the pipe from breaking. Next is the capacitor, which works the same way a battery does, but not as effectively. Capacitors are composed of two conductive plates with something called a dielectric sandwiched between them. Dielectrics can be anything that just doesn't like to conduct electricity, like glass, plastic, or even air. The way it works is basically the same way that lightning works. The circuit charge builds up on one plate, clouds, while the other plate, the ground, stays the same. Eventually, the difference in charge is enough to jump through the dielectric material, the air, and so the two plates equalize. The ability to store and release energy at predictable intervals is actually pretty handy, so capacitors have a lot of different uses. Like I said before, they can behave like batteries and keep a circuit powered for a little while after you unplug it. That's why their name comes from the word capacity. For instance, RAM information disappears forever the instant it loses power for even a microsecond, and so circuit boards will have a bunch of capacitors lined up in front of the RAM chips to protect them from power irregularities. While they're at it, they also even out the flow of electricity. Another capacitor function is pulsing. Anytime you see a blinking light, each blink means the capacitor behind it just discharged. Capacitors can also filter electron frequencies by letting some pass through while others have to follow a different route across the circuit board. That's how you can get a subwoofer to only play the low notes. It's called a low-pass filter. Then there's the diode, which is a device that's conductive in one direction and non-conductive in the other direction. A basic vacuum tube is a diode. The way it works is you've got two metal cylinders, one inside the other, and a glass tube that protects the near vacuum between them. Inside the inner cylinder, called the cathode, is a heater, and when the cathode is charged, the heater will push electrons out through the vacuum and into the outer cylinder, the anode. When the charge reverses, nothing happens because the anode is cold. By using a diode like a vacuum tube, you can convert alternating current into direct current, and you can also protect electronics from power surges. Of course, we don't use many vacuum tubes these days, and one reason is the semiconductor diode, which uses certain kinds of semiconducting crystal that only let electrons flow through them in one direction. Incidentally, diodes also happen to be a good way to filter radio transmissions out of the background noise, which is why both crystals and vacuum tubes were important parts of early radio receivers. Also, some crystal diodes glow when you pump electrons through them, making them light-emitting diodes, or LEDs. They're a lot more stable and use a whole lot less energy than the glowing wires of incandescent bulbs or the glowing gas of fluorescent lights. The only unfortunate part is how much they still cost. Inductors are wires wound into a coil, and they create a magnetic field in the middle of this coil. This field doesn't like to change, and so it regulates the flow of the electricity that creates it. This can help protect a circuit from background radiation. Inductors are also at the heart of transformers. 2 inductors wound around a single iron ring can use the magnetic field to transfer energy to each other, and the second circuit's voltage can change depending on how you wind the inductors. Switches let people or programs break a circuit so electricity stops flowing, or else they move the flow onto a different circuit. A fuse is simply a switch designed to flip when it detects too much current passing through it. But now let's get to the star of our show, the transistor. Transistors are the reason why computers speak in binary, in ones and zeros. They evolved out of vacuum tube diodes and were originally called triodes, tri for having 3 terminals instead of a diode's 2. This third terminal is a grid or screen placed between the cathode and the anode. When the grid is positively charged, it draws electrons to it and amplifies the current. When it's negatively charged, electrons stay away and the current slows or stays the same. The triode amplified radio signals, making them loud enough to hear from a distance. And they also allowed electronics to say yes or no without having to shut down altogether. By using a combination of triodes, or the crystal transistors that replaced them, electrical engineers were able to create logic gates, which take in 2 currents labeled 1 and 0 and spit out a result based on what kind of gate they are. AND gates only output 1 if both inputs are 1. OR gates output 1 if one or the other input is a 1. NOT gates take just one input and reverse it. The list goes on. But here's the takeaway. Every computer you can think of, no matter how complex, boils down to logic gates, ones and zeros, and transistors with variable currents. Anatomy of a computer. Now that I've laid some groundwork, let's move up a level of complexity and explain what all the components in the computer are. If you've ever built your own computer, you'd know what all of these parts are, but then not everyone builds their own computers. First things first, and that's the power supply. Power supplies use diodes or rectifiers to change the incoming AC power into DC, and they then use transformers and capacitors to change the voltage and filter the current. Power supplies come with a bunch of cords that go to every component that needs its own, power supply. Next up is the motherboard. If it's not the heart of your computer, then it's definitely the skeleton. And it's all your blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and all that other wonderful stuff that connects your body parts together. Motherboards are covered with sockets that let you plug in computer components, and everything that isn't a socket helps those components communicate with each other. Motherboards also have a BIOS, or Basic Input-Output System, that lets users adjust some basic options and loads up the operating system that the rest of your computer software works with. That said, software engineers have been working on ways to remove the BIOS and integrate it into the operating system. Then there's the Central Processing Unit, or CPU, and that is the beating heart of your computer. CPUs are what are called integrated circuits, or microprocessors, which means they contain a downright absurd number of transistors built into a single chip, which you can then plug into a larger circuit board, in this case the motherboard. The transistors and logic gates in a CPU allow it to make millions or more calculations every second. Incidentally, CPUs are usually capable of more calculations per second than the number they perform when you take them out of the box. Instead, they follow a routine set by an internal clock. You can tamper with this clock to speed up your processor, but then you'll encounter the reason why the clock was set in the first place. The CPU will overheat and melt into uselessness. So let me use that to segue into the next segment, heat management. All that electricity in motion creates a lot of heat, and if it builds up, bad things happen. Most computers are air-cooled, and to get enough air moving through the case, you need a lot of fans. Fans in the front to pull cold air in, fans in the back to push hot air out, and fans for individual components that get especially hot, like the CPU. You also have heat sinks, which are those metal fins you see sticking up over a CPU and in other places. Those fins maximize the heat sink's surface area, which lets it radiate out as much heat as possible. Even the slim modern smartphone uses silent fans and heat sinks to manage their heat levels. The alternative to air cooling is liquid cooling. While it's much more efficient, it's also much more expensive. Still, if you want to overclock your CPU, you'll need something better than the fan that comes with it in the box. So, anyway, where do the CPU's instructions come from? From the RAM, or Random Access Memory. The randomness comes from the fact that you can stuff whatever information you want on a RAM chip, and you can do it pretty much instantaneously. The downside is that all this information disappears when you shut the power down because it was all stored in transistor circuits. For more permanent storage, you have a few options. The oldest solution, at this point, is the hard disk drive, which has been around pretty much ever since we stopped using punch cards. Not that the HDD is all that different. The disk of the hard disk is made up of layers of magnetic and non-magnetic materials, and it records information by adjusting the magnetic field to north or south on microscopic points on each layer. That's why you can wipe a hard drive with a magnet. But aside from that, HDD information sticks around indefinitely, with the downside of needing time to read and write to the disk. Oh yeah, and the reason why they're called hard disks is to differentiate them from the old floppy disks, which only had a single floppy magnetic layer. Optical discs like CDs, DVDs, and Blu-rays work similar to this, but they use light and dark spots instead of magnetism. These days, however, we have an alternative, the solid-state drive. SSDs have no moving parts, hence the name solid-state. Instead, they use a kind of transistor that can keep its information even when you shut down the power. The downside is that you have to reset them in blocks to overwrite old information, and you can only switch them so many times before they break. Compared to HDDs, SSDs take longer to write and erase information and cost more per gigabyte, but they're much, much faster when it comes to reading information. A lot of people use them for operating system storage, if nothing else. Solid-state technology is also used for USB flash drives and most mobile devices. Putting the eyes on. Alright, so all that was for setting up the computer itself, but now, how do you communicate with the damn thing? Well, mice and keyboards are just a bunch of buttons that send different signals, and we've been converting electronic information into sound waves and back again since we first got the radio working. Now, the really tricky part would have to be the monitor, which went through quite a few iterations of its own over the past few decades. Hell, modern motherboards have their own integrated graphics processing. But if you want to do practically anything complex with your monitor, you need a graphics card. Graphics cards don't have any original components to them, but they do have specialized hardware, software, a few microprocessors, and quite often an extra fan or two. In the beginning, monitors were just as binary as the rest of your computer. One color or no color. A cathode ray tube, which is a kind of vacuum tube, would fire electrons not at an anode, but at a screen covered in phosphorescent dots. When the gun is firing electrons, the screen lights up. When it doesn't, the screen is dark. Using a magnetic field to aim the electrons, the gun scans across the entire screen from top to bottom 60 times per second, or 50 times in Europe. And when it does so, a picture emerges. For color TV screens, the process is more complicated, but basically the same thing. The screen is covered in blue, red, and green dots, and 3 electron guns fire at one color each. Computer monitors are a different beast than televisions. All a CRT TV had to do was repeat optical information scanned off a film reel. But to put something on a monitor, a computer has to create optical information out of nothing. The way it does this is by designating discrete pixels, square dots that represent one color each. Sending a monochrome CRT yes or no information in large blocks was just about all a computer could do back in the 70s, but it was eventually able to work with color monitors to create 4 colors, then 8, then 16, and so on, until by the late 90s it reached a point where it could create more colors than the human eye can detect. Anyway, while pixel size and color quantity were more problems for the computer to solve than the cathode ray tube, CRTs do have some problems of their own. The size, the weight, a weakness to magnets, the way the screen flashes when you try to record it with a TV camera, the way everything turns into fuzzy dots when you look at it up close. That's why modern monitors have mostly switched to liquid crystal displays, or LCDs. LCDs actually go back a long ways, the same as LEDs, but they weren't very complex until recently. Do you remember the old digital sports watches that were popular up until the point when people started using smartphones to tell the time? Or those solar-powered pocket calculators? The way they work is by using 2 polarized sheets with a layer of liquid crystals between them. Polarized light can pass through a polarized filter, but only when the angles match. Turn one of the sheets 90 degrees, and what's white will turn black. The liquid crystals work by bending the light between 2 sheets set at 90 degrees. Since it bends, the light comes through. However, when you run a current through them, the crystals straighten out, and the display turns dark. That was pretty much all you could do with liquid crystals for a very long time, but eventually they started varying the current to produce shades between white and black. The way they introduced color was basically the same as the CRT. Each pixel in your monitor is secretly 3 pixels of red, green, and blue, and each of these subpixels is controlled by a single thin film transistor that modulates exactly how far to twist the liquid crystals underneath the color filter. By the way, these thin film transistors are the reason why LCD displays are even thinner now than they were a few years ago. Oh, and there's an interesting experiment you can perform at home, at least if your computer screen isn't glass. If the screen surface is soft plastic, push the screen with your thumb and watch as the colors ripple under the pressure. What you're doing is pushing the liquid crystals out of alignment with each other, and so the color changes until you take your thumb away and they can move back into place. The next step in monitor technology is probably going to be the organic light-emitting diode, or OLED. OLEDs work the same as normal LEDs, but they use tiny organic molecules to produce light, which means they don't need a backlight like an LCD screen does, and you can bend the screen since you don't have the liquid crystal alignment to worry about. The layers are thinner too. OLED screens are more expensive and tend to wear out faster since they are organic, but tech companies are working on these problems. Thanks for joining me again today in Science Corner. I hope I'll see you next time for a Russian take on punk science fiction.